Batman, Arkham Asylum, a serious house on serious earth. Explained in detail. Do you call yourself a true fan of comic books, or are you a maniacal zealot when it comes to Batman? Well, if you happen to fall into both of these categories, we got both of these necessities taken care of for you. What we are going to talk about is a graphic novel that is not only viewed as one of the greatest Batman narratives of all time, but is also considered as one of the best works of Grant Morrison till this very day. The comic book that we are hinting at today is Arkham Asylum, a serious house on serious earth, written by Morrison and illustrated by Dave McKean. Would you believe us if we tell you that this graphic novel here is reported to be Grant Morrison's first work on the DC superhero, and that the story was actually planned to be the beginning of his own version in the Batman saga? Surprised? Oh, have we got more interesting trivia in store for you. Apparently, Morrison and his friend Jim Clements, during the initial phase of developing the story, were both intrigued by Len Wein's brief yet redolent paragraphs that were written regarding the history of Arkham Asylum in the Who's Who series. Of course, Morrison carried out comprehensive research before coming to a conclusion of using the tribulation of Amadeus Arkham as part of the story that he wanted to let his readers know. But also, to be honest, it was Frank Miller's 1986 comic book miniseries, The Dark Knight Returns, along with Alan Moore's Watchmen, that actually inspired the Scottish comic book writer into creating his personal story on Batman, one where he actually pushed the limitations of comics to greater extents. Now, as far as the intense plotline of Batman Arkham Asylum is concerned, the story has Batman being summoned to suppress an exasperating turmoil that is transpiring inside Gotham's Arkham Asylum. Post venturing inside, Batman encounters a horde of his enduring enemies, but soon realizes that there is more to the psychiatric hospital than he could have possibly ever imagined. So, prepare yourselves up for today's video, where we are going to dive deeper into Batman Arkham Asylum, explaining this graphic novel in complete detail. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The World on the Dark Side. Complete issue explained. The story introduces Amadeus Arkham, and the readers are made to dive into his world of journals. We learn that his father is dead, and his mother has been ill for a prolonged period. Amadeus doesn't seem to be in good shape either. What initially felt like a ghost haunting the corridors of his vast mansion soon transforms into something way more sinister on a particular night in 1901. That is when he first caught the glimpse of the world on the dark side. We see him bringing a food tray for his mother and telling her to eat, but his mother tells him that she has already eaten. The sight of her munching on beetles came as a total shock to Amadeus, and for the first time, he truly felt alone. It was years later when Amadeus actually became aware of the implication of the beetle. The insect was a sign of rebirth. He would gradually figure out that his mother was simply trying to protect herself from something in a manner that only she could comprehend. The scene next shifts to Batman having a conversation with Commissioner Gordon. The latter informs the vigilante of a riot taking place at the Arkham Asylum, one where the inmates have taken control of the entire building, how they are holding the entire staff as prisoners, and making the wildest of demands. Their conversation is interrupted by a phone call from the Joker, who tells Batman how he along with the rest of the inmates want him inside the madhouse, further telling him that the asylum is where he truly belongs. When Batman asks him what will happen if he turns down his request, the Joker seemingly kills one of the hostages, thereby answering his question. Before hanging up, the Joker tells him that he only has half an hour. The Commissioner tries to talk Batman out of it, but the latter has already made up his mind by then. The conversation with the Joker is also showing its effects, leading Batman to think, what if he actually belongs there? The readers are taken to another flashback. The year is 1920, and we are back to Amadeus' journal. Amadeus' mother has passed away by then. We get to know that she has slashed her very own throat with a pearl-handled razor. But by the looks of it, there is a fair chance that Amadeus may have put his mentally disturbed mother out of her misery by ending her life. Amadeus returns to the family home and decides to stay the night in his old room. It is a restless night for him. He is constantly haunted by the sound of beating wings. He returns back to his family in Metropolis the very next day. We further learn from his journal that he is employed at the state psychiatric hospital. Soon, Amadeus gets a patient called Martin Hawkins from the Metropolis Penitentiary that has been referred to him. Also known as Mad Dog Hawkins, the patient discloses to him how he was sexually abused and beaten by his father, something that eventually led him to destroying the faces and sexual body parts of his victims later on. We are also introduced to Amadeus' wife Constance and his young daughter Harriet. We soon learn that the former has plans of coming back to his family home in Gotham, which is being converted into a psychiatric facility along with his wife and child. Cut to the present, Batman is finally seen making his way towards the asylum. Greeted by the Joker, he tells him to release the hostages. Amongst the hostages released is the one that Joker had earlier fooled Batman into believing that he had killed. Batman is shocked when the Joker tells him that he played an April Fool's prank on him and is beyond rage when he realizes how easily he fell for it. Inside, Batman is stunned to find more hostages, the psychotherapist Ruth Adams and the current administrator of Arkham, Dr. Charles Cavendish. That's not all. Batman is even more stunned to discover the deteriorating mental state of Two-Face. Dr. Adams' treatment for him has made him incapacitated to the extent where he cannot even make the most basic decisions, such as going to the bathroom, for instance, without consulting a pack of tarot cards. Of course, Batman blames the Doctor for effectively destroying whatever was left of Two-Face's personality. With the Joker fooling around with Batman, the inmates of the asylum started getting impatient. They want to take off his mask and see his real face, but the Joker stops them, clearly hinting to the readers that he has deeper plans than just taking a peek at Batman's face. Meanwhile, in the parallel flashback, work has already begun at Amadeus' family home in Gotham. With the family shifting in, Harriet seems to be tormented by nightmares, which of course is a matter of concern to Amadeus, who thinks that things will get better after the work on the house gets completed. Coming back to the current scenario, the Joker forces Batman into participating in his favorite card game, which at the end brings despairing memories back to him. Anyway, we are again taken back to the time when Amadeus comes home to his family for Christmas. The family is seen celebrating when they get interrupted by a sudden telephone call. We, along with Amadeus, learns that Martin Hawkins has managed to escape from the penitentiary. Coming back to the present time, the Joker is seen coercing Batman into playing hide and seek, telling him that he has an hour to escape and posts that he will be hunted down by his dearest of friends. It has only been 10 minutes and the inmates are already bored. Each of them wants to go after Batman and they surely have their reasons. The Joker happily gives into their demands, telling them, let's just pretend it's been an hour. The readers are again taken back to the flashback. It is April 1st, 1921, and Amadeus comes home to find that the front door is wide open. Oblivious to the unspeakable tragedy that lays right in front of him, he is seen venturing inside his home and calling out to his wife, but there's no answer. What lies in front is a merciless sight. He first gets a glimpse of a lifeless body that is his wife, and next to her lies his daughter, indescribably violated. With the past and current both moving at a parallel speed, we are back to the present day. As Batman wanders through the madhouse, he comes face to face with many of his enduring rogues gallery. Clayface, Dr. Destiny, Scarecrow, Mad Hatter, Maxie Zeus, Killer Croc, and just about manages to escape all of them. Meanwhile, back in the flashback, it is November 1921, and despite the occurrence of the horrific tragedy, the Elizabeth Arkham Asylum for the criminally insane has finally opened its gates. We learn the name of the first patient, Martin Hawkins. As part of the plan, Amadeus treats him for 6 whole months and in the process gains a lot of commendation for having on display such acts of valor and kindness. On the first year death anniversary of his wife and daughter, he takes his due vengeance on Hawkins during a shock therapy session, deliberately burning him to death and simply calling it an accident later. The current scenario shows Batman meandering his way into a secret room in the towers. He is startled to find Cavendish there, who is holding Adams as a hostage. It is finally disclosed that the real person responsible for the entire thing happens to be none other than Dr. Charles Cavendish himself. He had orchestrated everything from setting the insured free to causing the riot. When Batman asks him why, Cavendish makes him read the journal of Amadeus Arkham. It is from this diary that Batman learns about Amadeus's mentally deranged mother, Elizabeth, and how she kept suffering from delusions of being plagued by some kind of supernatural entity. The entity was finally revealed to be a bat, and Amadeus had no other choice but to kill his mother and put her out of her own misery. With time passing by, he had blocked out his memory, but as fate would have it, the suppressed memories came back when his patient Martin Hawkins carried out heinous acts of crime on his wife and daughter. There are no second thoughts regarding the degree of psychological trauma that this particular incident had inflicted on Amadeus, so much so that he actually promised to bind the evil spirit of the bat using magic. While Amadeus was able to take his revenge on Hawkins, he was held as a prisoner in his own asylum till the day he breathed his last breath. Coming back to Cavendish, he only did what he believed was his destiny. In short, to finish what Amadeus Arkham started, he selected April Fool's Day, the very date that his family was slaughtered, and as part of the plan, set free all the inmates. Next, he made Batman come to the very asylum as he was certain that he was the Bat that Amadeus had mentioned in his journal. No wonder he puts the entire blame on Batman, telling the latter how he was accountable for feeding the asylum with the maddest of souls. He calls him the Bat, and a fight ensues between the duo, ending only with Adam slashing the throat of Cavendish in order to make things work in favor of Batman. The vigilante asks Adams to hand him over the coin of Two-Face, which then leads him to break down the main door of the asylum with an axe. Next, he tells all the inmates inside that they are free and returns back the coin he took earlier to Two-Face. Batman also makes Two-Face in charge of his fate, to which the latter states that if the unmarked face of his coin comes up, Batman gets to live, but if it is the scarred face that comes up, he dies. Batman agrees to his terms, and Two-Face flips the coin only to declare that Batman goes free. Soon, the police arrive to take back control of the asylum. The readers get to see a glimpse of the coin that Two-Face is seen looking at. It is finally disclosed that the coin had actually landed with the scarred face, but in spite of that, he decided to let Batman go. Two-Face is next seen staring at the stack of his tarot cards. He simply knocks them over saying, "Who cares for you? You're nothing but a pack of cards." Want to know what we think? Batman Arkham Asylum is categorically one of the finest Batman stories you will ever come across. The fact that it is simply groundbreaking shows when even the critics worldwide are full of praise. As ardent fans of this DC superhero here, we can't thank Grant Morrison and Dave McKean enough for their spectacular contribution. What we have here is a notorious Arkham Asylum, then we have Batman coming face to face with this enduring rogues gallery, only to have the supernatural and psychological mystery revolve around the old facility to unfold and show its true colors. Believe us when we say that this graphic novel here is dark, and it is bound to take you on a psychological ride, one that you have possibly never experienced before. The storyline is intense, no doubt about that, but what is even more interesting is how flattering and creative the artwork by Dave McKean happens to be. But speaking of creative, there is this one particular concern with the graphic novel, the only issue, to be honest. There are times when the creative artwork does make the lines a little bit harder to read, especially when we have the Joker babbling. So perhaps a traditional layout could have been nicer, but if we subtract that, it is a brilliant comic and there are no second thoughts about it. If you call yourself a true fan of Batman, you have got to read this. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.